The long silence for as long as she could remember. Lyra had searched the stars. She was born under twin moons on a planet called Allura, in a culture where every child was told of their destined. Bond one true soul somewhere in the galaxy. Most found theirs early, but Lyra's search lasted decades. From her early years, she felt something missing. Her people, known as the Valari, were tall, graceful beings with golden skin and glowing eyes. They were gifted with soul sense and instinct that tugged them toward their destined bond. But for Lyra, it had always pulled far, far beyond her own world. That wasn't normal. By the age of 20, she joined the starship Wanderlight, a Valari exploration vessel. She visited over 60 worlds. She touched hands with thousands, hoping every time for the spark, the connection, the moment her chest would burn with recognition. But it never came. Years turned to decades. The stars blurred together. Her crew stopped asking if she had found him yet. Most believed her mate must have died or never existed. But Lyra refused to accept that. Something deep in her core whispered, "He's out there." Then came the distress call. It wasn't Valari. The language was different, broken, old. The computer had to dig through ancient archives to translate it. But when Lyra read the message, her hands began to shake. "This is Commander Reed of the human transport ship HFY. We're stranded near the Raquel Belt. Low fuel, injured crew, requesting aid." The name human hit her like a storm. Lyra knew of them, the lost species, thought extinct. Centuries ago, they'd vanished after one great war. Rumors said they had burned their homeworld and disappeared into the void. But no living Valari had ever seen one. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. That strange tug inside. Her soul sense suddenly flared. Not weak, not gentle. It roared to life. She couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred. There was no doubt. He was there. The ship's commander hesitated when she requested to change course. The distress call was vague. The Raquel Belt was dangerous, filled with magnetic storms and old war mines. But Lyra's tone was not a request. It was need. "Set a course to the signal," she said, her voice stronger than anyone had heard in years. Now, as the Wanderlight entered the outer edge of the Raquel Belt, static flooded the comms. Outside the viewport, shattered moons drifted through glowing clouds. The signal grew stronger. The sensors finally locked onto a damaged vessel, small, old, and barely holding together. Human letters were still visible on the side. HFY, her breath caught. They hailed it. After several minutes, a voice responded. Weak, male. His words were rough and accented, but she understood them all. "This is Reed. We thought no one was coming." The crew prepared a medical boarding team, but Lyra waved them off. She was already halfway into the dock. Her soul sense buzzed like fire under her skin. Her hands trembled. She hadn't felt anything like this, not once in her entire life. As the airlock door hissed open, the hallway was dark, lit only by emergency lights. Wires hung from the ceiling. The air smelled like oil and smoke. Then she saw him, tall, worn, bleeding from one arm. He wore a torn uniform and held himself upright with pure willpower. His skin was rough and pale. His eyes were tired, but when they met hers, both of them froze. Neither spoke. Something passed between them, like a jolt, like a breath held for too long, finally released. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just right. Reed stared at her. "You're not real," he whispered. Lyra stepped forward. "And yet, here I am." She reached out her hand. He didn't hesitate. Fingers touched. The spark lit. Asterisk. Lyra didn't let go. The moment her hand touched his, something changed inside her. It was like the emptiness she had always carried suddenly cracked open and light poured in. Reed's eyes widened. He felt it. His hand trembled in hers, but not from weakness, from something deeper. He had felt pain, war, and loss, but never this, never peace. The hallway round them faded, the damage, the smoke, the broken metal, it all vanished from their focus. In that one moment, only the two of them existed. Reed blinked. "I don't even know your name, Lyra," she said softly. He gave a tired smile. "I'm Reed, Commander. Or I used to be." Her head tilted. "You are human. Last I checked." She took a step closer. "I've searched so long for you." His breath caught. "You were looking for me." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes soft. "Since before I understood what searching meant." Reed looked around at the broken ship, the flickering lights. "Well, I wish I could have met you in better shape. I'm not exactly the hero type anymore." "I didn't need a hero," she said. "I needed you." He stared at her like she was a dream he didn't trust. Then, the alarm above them buzzed, shaking them out of the moment. The ship's system was failing. The Ashwake was dying. "We need to get off this ship," she said quickly, turning back to the docking hatch. "My team is ready. Medical units standing by." Reed nodded, his strength wavering. "There are others on board. My crew. Only 3 survived. They're in cryo. I couldn't save them all." "You saved enough," she said gently. With her help, they moved fast. 2 engineers from the Wanderlight joined her and carefully transferred the cryopods. Reed refused to let anyone carry him. Even hurt, he walked on his own, leaning only slightly on the wall. But every step, Lyra stayed beside him. Once aboard the Wanderlight, Reed sat quietly in the medical bay. His arm was wrapped. His wounds were cleaned. He hadn't said much since. He just kept watching Lyra. "Why me?" he asked finally. She sat across from him. "I don't fully understand it myself. My people are born with something called the soul sense. It's a deep call. It only responds when we are near our true bond." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Like a fate, stronger than that. Unshakable? I've felt its tug all my life, and it always pointed far from home, far from everything I knew. And now it's silent, at peace." Reed looked down at his hands. "I'm a soldier, a broken one. My people are gone. We had one last fight and we lost. We thought we were the last. You are not alone," she said. "Not anymore." He looked at her again. There was warmth in his chest, a soft feeling he hadn't known in years. Later that night, Lyra stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She was calm. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the pull to chase distant lights. Reed approached quietly. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "I know," she replied, without turning. He stepped beside her. The galaxy spread before them, vast, cold, endless. But beside her, Reed felt like he belonged somewhere again. "I still don't understand how this happened," he said. "Not everything needs understanding. Some things are just felt." Reed turned to her. "You said you've been searching for me your whole life." She nodded. Double quotes. "What now?" Lyra looked at him. Asterisk now, she said. "We start writing the rest of the story together." Asterisk. The next morning on the Wanderlight, everything felt different. Lyra, once silent and distant, now moved with quiet purpose. For years, she had floated through life, never grounded. But today, she had someone to care for. Someone real. Someone hers. Reed, still recovering, sat by the wide window in the observation room. He watched the stars slowly drift by. His arm was wrapped in clean. Bandages and a warm drink rested in his hands. The medical team said he was lucky to be alive. He wasn't sure if he agreed. But now, with Lyra, maybe luck had something to do with it. He turned as she walked in. "You're early," he said, giving a small smile. "I couldn't stay away," she replied. Lyra sat beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was comfortable, like an old song with no need for words. Then he asked, "So what happens now? Am I just a guest on your ship? Or is there some plan for what to do with a lost human? You are not just a guest, she said, her voice soft but firm. You are part of my future. Reed looked at her. Surprised. Lyra continued, in my culture, when the soul sense finds a bond, it cannot be ignored. It is rare, sacred, and for me, it's stronger than anyone has ever recorded. But I'm not Valari, Reed said. I'm not from your world. I've lived through war, loss, and things you probably wouldn't want to see. I don't need you to be perfect, she said. I need you to be. Reed paused, then asked the one thing on his mind. Do you really believe this bond between us is real? She gently reached for his hand and placed it over her chest. Feel that, she whispered. Her heartbeat was strong, fast, and steady. It echoed in her chest like thunder. That's how my soul answers when you're near. Reed closed his eyes. It had been so long since he felt wanted, truly seen. Not as a leader, not as a survivor, but as a man. Later that day, Lyra introduced him to the rest of her crew. Many stared in disbelief. A real human? A survivor of Earth's long fallen colonies? And bonded with Lyra, the one who had spent her whole life searching? It didn't take long for the whispers to start. Some were kind, others were cautious. Humans are dangerous, someone muttered. They were warriors, said another, but reckless. Reed heard it all, but he kept his head high. He had nothing to prove except to one person, and she was already on his side. That night, as they walked the quiet halls of the ship together, Lyra looked up at him. Do you regret coming with me? She asked. He shook his head. No, I regret not meeting you sooner. She smiled, the kind of smile that made her golden eyes glow. Then stay. I'm not going anywhere. As days passed, Reed's body healed, but something deeper healed. Too, he learned about Valari customs, their history, their peaceful way of life. He also taught Lyra about Earth's lost culture, about music, old stories, food, and how humans once danced under real stars. Sometimes she would just sit and watch him talk, her heart filled with something she didn't have words for. It was more than a bond. It was love. And for the first time in both their lives, they weren't alone anymore. Asterisk news spread faster than light. A Valari had bonded with a human, a species believed extinct for over a century. It wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. Or so the Galaxy thought. Other ships began contacting the Wanderlight, asking questions. Was the human stable? Was the bond real? Some even asked if Lyra had been manipulated, as if her feelings were a trick. Lyra stood firm. She didn't answer insults. She didn't give in to pressure. She simply said, he is mine, and I am his. The Valari High Circle requested she return to Allura to present her bond. It was a rare demand. She hadn't set foot on her homeworld in years. But for Reed's safety and for the truth, she agreed. The Wanderlight changed course. Reed stood beside her as the ship passed. Through the shimmer of Allura's atmosphere, the world below glowed with blue forests, golden lakes, and silver towers reaching into the sky. It's beautiful, Reed whispered. So are you, she replied. He turned red, chuckling. I'm just an old soldier. No, she said, softly. You're the man who stilled my stars. The landing was quiet. No welcome party. No joy. Instead, guards met them at the dock. Lyra kept her head high as Reed walked beside her. He noticed the way others stared, not with wonder, but fear. Inside the Hall of Echoes, the High Circle waited. 7 tall Valari elders in long white robes sat on thrones of crystal. Their eyes glowed faintly. Lyra, the center elder, said, You have returned and brought a storm with you. I brought truth, she replied. The elder looked at Reed. You are human. Reed nodded. Name's Reed. I'm not here to cause trouble. Another elder scoffed. Humans burned their own world. They brought war to the stars. That was a long time ago. Reed answered, and I've paid more for it than you can imagine. Then why are you here? The elder asked sharply. Lyra stepped forward. Because my soul led me to him. The room went silent. Do you truly believe this bond is natural? One elder asked. You are Valari. He is human. There is no history between us. There is now, Lyra said. Reed added quietly. I didn't come looking for her. She found me. And when she did, I felt whole. That word echoed in the chamber. Whole. The elder sat back, uncertain. No laws forbade such a bond, but no laws expected one either. Another elder spoke softly. You must understand, this union will shake belief. It will change what we thought was possible. Then let it, Lyra replied. The stars are not afraid of change. Why should we be? That night, they were allowed to stay under watch. Lyra returned to her old home empty now. Dust had gathered, but she didn't care. Reed stood by the window, watching the city lights. Do you regret this? She asked. He turned to her slowly. No, but I see now why they fear me. You're not just human, she said. You're a symbol of everything they buried. Reed looked down. If being with you brings chaos, maybe I'm not worth it. She walked up to him, took his hand, and pressed it against her heart. Then let the galaxy burn, she said, because I choose you every time. And in that quiet house, surrounded by stars and silence, two lost souls held each other, no longer searching, no longer afraid. They had already found what the stars could not offer. Each other. Asterisk the next morning. The city of Allura was no longer calm. Across every tower, screen, and skyboard, a single message repeated. Valari citizen Lyra has bonded with a human survivor. The High Circle will vote soon on the fate of this union. Some Valari cheered. Others called it dangerous. Outside the central dome, crowds gathered. Protest signs floated in the air, some glowing with support, others filled with anger and fear. Reed watched from a high window. He'd faced enemies before, armies, beasts, even betrayal. But nothing prepared him for the feeling of being unwanted by the very people of the one he loved. He turned as Lyra entered, dressed in a deep blue robe with silver trim colors reserved for those presenting before the High Circle. You look strong, he said. I am strong, she replied, then walked over and gently took his hand. Because you're with me. Reed gave a small smile. I don't want to be the reason your people turn against you. She shook her head. No, they fear what they don't understand. But understanding can start with us. Inside the hall of echoes, the seven elders sat again. This time, the entire chamber was filled. Dozens of other Valari leaders, teachers, scientists watched from the balconies. Lyra stood tall in the center. Reed stood beside her, silent but unshaken. An elder rose. Today, we decide whether a bond between Valari and human is recognized or rejected. We must vote. Another elder raised her voice. This bond defies history. If we allow it, what comes next? Children, new bloodlines, human minds shaping Valari thought. But is that a danger? A third elder asked. Or evolution? The room hummed with whispers. Then they called on Lyra. She stepped forward. Her voice was clear. I did not choose him for his species. I did not fall for a symbol. I followed the one truth our people hold sacred, the soul sense. It led me to him. I honored it. She turned to Reed, and in him, I found peace. The elder looked at Reed. And you, human, do you see this bond as sacred or strategic? Reed looked up slowly. I don't speak like your people, he said. I don't use glowing words or high speech, but I know what it feels like to be alone for years. I wandered ruins. I buried friends. I carried 1,000 regrets. He paused, and then she walked into the fire of my dying ship and reached for my hand. She didn't see a broken man. She saw me. He looked around the room. I may not be Valari, but I know love when I feel it, and I'll protect it, even if it's the last thing I do. The room was silent. No one moved. Then the elders stood. The Head Elder looked at the crowd, then at Lyra and Reed. "We are divided," he said, "but we cannot deny truth. This bond is not forced, not false. It is real." He stepped forward and raised his hand. "By ancient law, soul bonds must be honored regardless of blood or world." The words echoed. Then came the verdict. The bond is accepted. Some in the chamber applauded. Some left in silence. Others simply watched in awe. But Reed and Lyra didn't notice the noise. They only saw each other. Later that night, they stood under Elora's twin moons, hand in hand. "You changed a world today," Lyra whispered. Reed smirked. "You make it sound like I planned it." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "No, you just loved me. And that was enough." The stars above them shimmered like soft candles. For the first time in centuries, a human and a Valari watched them, together not as strangers, but as one. The galaxy would never be the same again.